Today we're talking about this one, The Suspicion. And my first question is, why is it called The Suspicion? Because as you may find out as we go through the plot of this book, there really is nothing particularly suspicious about it. Really. I mean, I know people say that a lot of the Animorphs books are just named almost at random. But I'd have thought, I looked back at the ones we've done so far, all the way back to book 1. And this is really the first time where I'm absolutely clueless as to where the name comes from. The closest I could get is the encounter, which does sort of apply, but it's also noticeably vague. But it still applies. And the predator, implying what, this of one is a predator? I mean, sort of, maybe. This one I'm just like, why? Where's that come from? Absolutely no reason for it to be called that. It should be called the twats or the utterly annoying. Something like that. That would make more sense. This book starts with Cassie and Rachel moving stuff to the local Oxfam. It's Oxfam in this book. I'm not sure if it's the same in the American version, but they're taking it to a charity shop called Oxfam. And they find a little ship on this little water pump where Cassie has, it's revealed, hidden the blue box because she took charge of it after the whole David thing. And I do like this continuity. You know, we've just gotten the blue box back, so now it's been put somewhere, and that leads into this particular story. I like the continuity there. Not that there's much more to it than that. So they go elsewhere, they find Jake, and then these three come back to Cassie's place later, and there's another ship on this water pump where this blue box is being kept. And Cassie's suddenly like, what? What's going on here? And then the ship flies off. And I must say, the way the ships are described, they sound really phallic. They say that it's a long thing with two thrusters at the back either side, and then a death's head. What's a death's head? I'm thinking like a triangle, in which case this thing is like proper phallic shaped. I'm not sure if that's deliberate or whether that's just that I've got a dirty mind. I am British after all. My fiance always says, because she's American, she's saying that British are known or notorious for repressed sexuality. Whether that applies to me, that's up to her to decide, really. But now we're getting personal, so we'll stay away from that. This little phallic-shaped ship flies away. And on page 13, I fall in love with Jake yet again. This is probably the best paragraph I think Jake's had so far, perhaps with the exception of the one in the... no, is it the threat or... it's 21, 22. So, Cassie says, Jake, you know what's hidden in that water pump? Of course I do, he said. He shook his head slowly, then he snapped into his leader mode. Okay, the weekend just got cancelled. Cassie, you and Rachel morph right now, get to the woods and bring back to buy snacks. I'll find Marco back here in half an hour. Go. Oh, Jake, yes, I like it. That sounds exactly like something I would have expected a commander to say. That's it, Jake. You've ascended to leaderly. I mean, the last few books he's been... I think it's as the David trilogy came around, Jake suddenly went from being sort of alright, you know, he showed some leaderly qualities, and since that big saga came along, Jake has just... it's all his humour and fun, and yeah, that's all gone away. Now we've got fucking leader Jake. And I love it. So the Animorphs now have to figure out what's going on, and they all gather and come up with this plan, and they go to this Oxfam shop. And they go in, and there's a Star Wars, Star Trek nerd at the desk. And there's this thing going through the start of this book where there's like this joke about nerdy people and knowing what spaceships are from different series. I don't fucking know. Sci-fi, as far as sci-fi goes, I like some Star Wars and I like Animorphs. That's as much sci-fi as I deal with on a regular basis, really. So that all sort of blew over my head, but I get it. I get the humour. They go into the back of this store where the first Helmicron ship was sent to. They find the ship and it starts attacking them and it fires little Dracon beams. Are they Dracon? Are they lasers? Are they Dracon beams? I can't remember if they were mentioned as being Dracon beams because that's a strictly Yerk thing. So I imagine they're just like little laser guns. Just your standard alien laser guns. They fire at that. Rachel grabs a fucking baseball bat and it's fucking, you know, come my way, I'll show you a fucking good time, bitch. And, fuck me. And then the Helmicrons, which are these teensy tiny little aliens, start to communicate. They're these weird, four-legged, human torso, cone-like head with a flat top and bulging green eyes on top. And they say neep a lot. It's almost like you ever watch the Monty Python film, The Holy Grail, and you got the knights who say, me? It's close to that. I wish it was. I wish they put that little Easter egg in there. We are the aliens who say, me! Me! Fucking Monty Python. Fucking love it. But it's close enough. But aside from saying neep all the time, these Helmicrons talk in thought speech. Yes, we've seen this before, where an alien race has to communicate with the Animorphs. How do we get past this writing problem? Fuck, we could come up with an actual sensible, reasonable solution. Oh, thought speak. Just thought speak, go. It's the same with the Makora. They just thought speak. We thought all along that this was an Andalite specific thing. But no, apparently, you know, if you come across a problem with alien language, just fucking give them thought speak, you know. Telepathy. It's just a common thing, apparently. Minor point. But this book, as we will find out, is just full of... It's full of bits like this, where, you know, it's just convenience for convenience sake. It's the oh, how convenient thing. But in the context of the book and the plot and all that goes on in here, I don't actually mind. This book is a Saturday morning cartoon book. It's complete filler. It's there for the fun. I was saving this talk for the end of the episode, but I might as well get out of the way now. This book it's for the fun. And I appreciate the fact that it's come after a lot of hard-hitting books. It's a nice little break. Let's get back to the plot. So these aliens have started shooting the Animorphs, or at least the small number that are in this shop. I believe it's Jake, Cassie and Rachel. And the Helmicrons start talking at them. Aliens, give us the power source. Give it to us and we will let you live as our slaves. We will not crush and annihilate you as we will crush and annihilate all the people of this planet. Blah, 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 blah. No, we shall not let all three of you live. Only the one who brings us the power source. All others must feel the wrath of brave Helmicron warriors, the true and natural rulers of the galaxy. What's the normal response to this? You know, these are trained warriors, not necessarily trained, but there's a guerrilla fighters in a big war, these Animorphs now. You know, they should know a threat when they see one. You know, they shouldn't be naive anymore. How does Cassie approach these aliens who have just threatened to kill them and or turn them into slaves? Hi, welcome to Earth. Look, some of what you're saying sounds almost threatening. And I'm sure you didn't mean it that way. Fuck me, Cassie. She's gone into a strange form of... Fucking hell, Marco. Stand up straight, for Christ's sake. Oh, disaster. Cassie's mindset, it's not fight or flight. It's fight, or friend. Alien friend. In-betweeners joke there for you, if you watch that show. But it's like they've just threatened to kill you and just going to come at saying, can we be friends? Wow, Cassie, if you're like that at this stage of the series, you've got no fucking hope, have you? You're walking down a fucking dark alleyway and some fucking 7-foot, bald-headed fucking twat comes your way. He comes up to you saying, I'm going to fucking have you. Well, you could do that, or you could pop round my place for a nice cup of tea. Wrong tone, wrong reaction. Okay. And then there's this chase. They all go back to Cassie's barn because the Helmicrons decide they've had enough of fighting. So they're going to go grab the blue box because apparently this is a power source to them. They think of it as this great power source. And that's what attracted to them in the first place. So I'm happy with that, how that works. They found this power that we know the Esquil has, because you remember... Oh no, hold on. Megamorphs 1. So if this thing... Oh, fuck it. Right. So the morphing box gives off energy. The morphing power gives off energy that the leak followed in Megamorphs 1. This blue box has powers that the Helmicrons find. There's a lot of weird powers of this morphing technology, isn't there? It's weird, but theory video for another day. Stay tuned. They get back to the barn, and there's a big scuffle just outside the barn, just by this water pump, which he establishes like right by the barn. And yeah, things start kicking off. Cassie and Marco and Tobias go into the barn where one of these two Helmicron ships is. By the way, these two Helmicron ships hate each other. It's the Planet Crusher and the Galaxy Blaster. And they have these petty squabbles between each other. And there's at the start of most of the chapters, there's a Helmicron log where you get like a note from these Helmicron ships just dissing on the other ship and saying how they're going to rule everything. It's quite a fun little addition. But yeah, these two are fighting each other. But at this stage, they're more focused on fighting the Animorphs. Cassie, Marco, and Tobias are in the barn. And they get blasted with a shrink ray. So I believe it was the Planet Crusher. If it was the Galaxy Blaster, it was one of the two. Has this blue box. They've taken it because they burnt through the water pump. And they've got this blue box. And somehow they're able to divert this energy into a shrink ray. Now, I don't understand this. So... How does this work? So they've got a shrink ray. They've either got a shrink ray aboard their ship and it just needed the extra power that the blue box offered it, or they got the blue box, saw how it worked, and within 24 hours say, right, we can turn this energy into a shrink ray. That's some serious bloody technology going on there. One of those two. I think the more likely solution is that they have a shrink ray on board. They're running relatively low on power, maybe they've travelled a long way, and the blue box gave them enough energy to power up the shrink ray, and bam. That's what I think has happened here. So now, Cassie, Tobias, and Marco are tiny, little tiddly tiny things. Miniature. In Cassie's barn. Oh, what happens next? Oh yeah, at first it was just Cassie and Tobias that got shrunk. And Cassie told Tobias to tell the others to not come in. And Tobias waits about 2 full pages before warning anyone. Come on, Tobias. He's fucking sitting, he's shrinking, he's just fucking twiddling his wings. Cassie's like, tell them, don't come in. He's just like... I'd advise against coming in. Yeah. So, yeah, because of that, Marco also gets shrunk, because Tobias is a lazy little shit. This book tends to, when it comes to the actual science of this stuff, like a lot of the biology stuff, it's pretty spot on, but there's one little bit that I just want to point out that it shouldn't have happened the way it did. So, Cassie's already been shrunk, and Marco was shrunk shortly after, so he's bigger than her, shrinking at the same rate. He's still bigger than her, though. Page 38. I'm coming in, Jake said decisively. No, Marco yelled in a voice that already sounded like someone breathing helium. Well, no, because that's an effect of them being bigger. So, from Cassie's perspective, Marco, despite him shrinking, would still sound boomy and really low pitch. So, it's a really nitpicky thing, but as I've always said, that's what I'm here to do. I'm going to pick up on these little bits. And let's face it, there's not much plot to this book. There's not much else for me to talk about. Cassie's dad comes in, tells the remaining large Animorphs to bugger off. Meanwhile, the 3 shrunken Animorphs are hiding under a cage bar or something, and the Helmicrons come up on either side. They've got different coloured collars, and they're arguing about who's going to get them. And the Animorphs come back as Axe's a spider, and the others are cockroaches. And we have this ghastly bloody, oh shit, that's a spider, but that's like 3 stories tall from our perspective. And just get a face full of this thing. And then Axe starts chasing some of the Helmicrons off, but then he gets shot by the Helmicron ship. The cockroaches, Jake and Rachel, get their antennae blown off, and there's a bit of a scuffle. And Cassie and Marco decide that the best thing to do is to surrender. Which, to be fair, was probably the right decision at the time because they were fucked. So they surrender and they get taken aboard the ship where we learn a bit more about the Helmicrons. Turns out that the Helmicrons, the females are in charge, but they're also not in charge, but they're presided over by a dead female. The males are subordinate, but the females are not allowed in positions. It's a fucking mess. It really is a mess. So the Shrunk Animorphs are told to grovel to the captain, who is this dead female. And yeah, the Helmicrons say, well, a dead captain can't make mistakes. Marco's just like, yeah, I suppose. It is bizarre, it is. But pages 80 and 81 are pretty fun to read because they get put in with a male who takes them, as basically holds them for a while. And they call him Wuss. But he explains how the Kelbridge Society, at least as much as we know of them, works. And let's have a sampling of this. Those who make errors must be eliminated. It is inevitable that a captain who would make many decisions if she were alive would therefore also make many mistakes. What is the point of a captain who must be killed for error? In this way we have a captain who may be respected and revered by all. Etc, etc. Yes, a Helmicron female may not ascend to a position of importance in our society unless it is certain that she will not cause problems. She must be a symbol that all can admire. Etc, etc. You must obey all females. You must wash your food before eating it. As males, you must be quiet and calm at all times. Etc, etc. You are a slave, thus you are male and must do whatever a female tells you to do. So that's a summation, I believe, of the general Kelbridge. Kelbridge? Why am I talking about Kelbridge? Kelbridge? That's later. That's much later. The Helmicron Society. To summarise, anybody who makes errors must be eliminated. Women are not allowed in positions of importance unless they never make mistakes. And males must be quiet and calm in front of females. And females must be obeyed despite not having any positions of importance. Basically, the Helmicrons are the woke movement. Just this fumbling, bumbling mess of standards that make no sense. And Marco sums it up quite nicely, really. Here's one thing I know. These guys are nuts. They hacked those guys down. They put dead guys in charge. They are nuts. Pure and simple Looney Tunes freakazoids. They could go off on us for no reason at all. Yeah, it's the fucking woke movement. They've just put Biden in office, who, let's face it, is practically dead. Cassie comes up with this idea because the Helmicrons are asking who has the blue box. It's one of you morphing bunch. So Cassie thinks, hold on, there's another morphing person. His name is Visser 3, and he could be on the Blade ship. So the Helmicrons accept this answer, and whoosh, off they go into space, only to come straight back down following a pull ship that goes back to the same town. So they just go fucking up into space and back down again. Okay, whatever. And he goes into an old restaurant that's not being used and then gets into his black limousine, which is becoming a thing for Visser 3, the black limousine. Somebody needs to do like a little... Like there are lots of people with plushes, making plushes. Somebody needs to do a Visser 3 with a black limo. That'd be awesome. So yeah, they follow Visser 3, chase him around a bit in this little ship where they're seeing through all these visors and screens and whatever. Visser 3 rolls down the window, looks at them, they shoot him. And then there's this weird scuffle. Marco and Cassie. We don't see them together often, do we? Marco and Cassie. But it's nice to get them in this book together, interacting with each other. Granted, it only happens for a limited... It's only very limited in how they interact with each other. But they decide, right, we need to get out of here. How are we going to do it? They're going to morph small. And they discussed this earlier. Axe told them how small they would get if they morphed to something like a flea. And they didn't like the idea. But now they think, we got to get away. How do we do it? We have to morph small. So they morph to fly. And I love this bit. I love the bit where they morph to fly, and they're so tiny because they're still morph relative. So the human being 1.5 millimeters, when they morph fly, it's relative to the human body, so they're basically microscopic. And there's all this stuff about cells and nuclei and mitochondria, and the biologist in me, the biology side of me, the bit that loves biology. Oh, I love that bit. Just, it's like a little miniature science lesson in there, and I really appreciated that. They land on top of one of these Helmicrons, and then suddenly the place explodes in Dracon fire. Basically, the ship, I forget which one, it's not really relevant which one it is, it's just one of the two, gets blasted by Visser 3 or one of his controllers. And somehow, this bit's very confusing, because the Helmicron beneath them is blown up by Dracon beam, and then somehow the Animorphs are outside after having been in the ship. And I'm just confused. I don't understand this series of events. So a Helmicron within the ship is blown up. The ship, though, is fine, and Visser 3 holds it in front of the human controls when he gets to his little meeting. But the Helmicrons on it died, and the Animorphs just sort of fell out. It's very confusing. But then I suppose when they're that small, they can't really see what's going on around, so it's forgivable that we haven't got a full description of all the little details that went on, because they aren't seeing anything either, so in a way it's fair. And then probably the most bullshit part of the book, which is saying something. They end up on Chapman's head. First point, why Chapman again? Why is it always Chapman? He doesn't play a part in any of this. It's just, oh, we want people to recognise one of these controllers. Just make it Chapman again. Just, why not? Why not have Chapman there again? So Marco and Cassie land on Chapman's head as tiny little things, remember, tiny little things. And then Tobias just fucking swoops in. How'd you do? How the fuck did he find them? How? Needle in the haystack, and the haystack is fucking the size of an American. Fucking whammo. How was he just... How has he found them that quickly, if at all? There's no real explanation as to how. Oh dear. But now the controllers and the Visser are in this Yerk meeting. So yeah, Tobias is also on Chapman's head now. And the Helmicron comes in, starts giving it all that, all that. And then the Animorphs come in as well, and there's a battle going on, and Cassie and Marco and Tobias are just sort of hanging around thinking, well, what the hell can we do? We can't even see what's going on, really. But it's just Visser 3 and a bunch of human controllers, apparently. And the Helmicron starts shrinking everybody. Pretty much everybody. The only person who doesn't get shrunk is the great walloping figure of an Andalite, probably twice as big as a human, considering they've got an extra whole torso, an extra set of legs. Axe seems to be the only one who hasn't been shrunk. I mean, maybe there were human controllers left behind, and Axe did run away. But a load of these human controllers got shrunk, as did Visser 3. There's just this bizarre series of events that it's actually genuinely hard to follow what's happening. And that's one of the big problems of this book is, I think because we're operating on the perspective of somebody that can't really see much, it's equally difficult for us as readers to follow what's going on. It's hard to... I mean, I'm reading this chapter where Axe is the only one left, and now the Visser and his controllers and Jake and Rachel are on one of Axe's legs, and Marco and Cassie they've ended up on top of the ship because Cassie had an idea of morphing humpback whale on top of the ship to slow it down, which meant it got caught, which meant the Helmicrons left and went onto Axe, and Axe morphed Harrier to get away from chasing human controllers, I suppose. So I suppose there were human controllers still around. He morphed Harrier to fly off, and then because of that, all of these are now on Axe, and they're having a little battle. I mean, that sums up the series of events, but while I was reading it, I had to go back a couple of times, just say, okay, wait, what was it? How did this happen? It was quite hard to follow. It really was. But they're all having this battle on Axe, And Cassie has another idea. She's full of ideas today. To go to the gardens, morph Anteater. And that's what happens. So Axe takes them to the gardens. They all jump off of him and land on this Anteater. Cassie thinks, well, okay, so all of us and our DNA have been shrunk, including the DNA we've acquired from other animals, have been shrunk. So if we acquire the DNA of the Anteater, it's fresh DNA that isn't size reduced, so we'll go back to Anteater size. And this works. Awesome. The science behind it, who fucking knows? But they morph Anteater. Visser 3 does the same. And Cassie gets all these Helmicrons on her tongue and starts threatening them. And then the stupidest fucking bit, right? So as Cassie's morphing Anteater, she establishes, let's read, page 142. As you'd expect, the Anteater I was becoming had good eyes. I could see Axe resting. I could see Tobias on his shoulder. And I could see the Helmicron ship with the blue box still attached, lying in the dirt with Axe's Harrier talon wrapped protectively around it. Okay, so we've established that Axe is still in Harriomorph. And Tobias is perched atop his shoulder. Right? So Cassie morphs the Anteater, grabs the Helmicrons, and then Visser 3, his tongue shot out and snagged not an ant, but a very small bird that had been flying by. The Visser stopped his tongue, holding a stuck and helpless Tobias a millimetre from disappearing into his tubular jaw. Wait. So, and then, like lightning, Axe leapt. Like lightning, his tail blade came down and stopped quivering, pressed against the Visser's Anteater throat. Two things here, right? Firstly, we never knew that Axe had demorphed. It was never mentioned. I suppose he just did it. He did it in the background. It would have been nice if that was mentioned at all, because it's just out of nowhere. Tobias's tail blade comes out when we just established a page ago that he was a Harrier wrapping his talons around the ship and the blue box. It's just, you know, it happens. And even worse. So Tobias is perched on Axe's shoulder. And then the next minute, he's just fucking on a stroll. And he just fucking flies in front of Visser 3. Fucking, well, hey, I'm going for a walk. I'm going for a fucking fly here. What? What the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? You stupid twat. Sorry, that was rude. You stupid twit. Change one letter makes all the difference. But this... What? It just makes the last chapter... It is the last chapter, which is 2 pages and a bit. It just sets up the last chapter to be like, done. Right, pen to paper, done, send it to the publishers. How do we get this situation? We need there to be some sort of bargain. Okay, I know Tobias was safe and over there, but now he's flying around Visser 3 who catches him. It's just fucking stupid. Tobias, what you're doing? What the fuck are you doing? It's like... Okay. So there's a shark-infested water, right? A shark-infested beach. And the lifeguard says, right, everybody out the pool, fucking, you know, get out the water, there are sharks here. And if you go near them, they'll kill you. And Tobias, while this is all going on, is stood on the beach. And he hears this call, lifeguard, oh, okay. 5 seconds later, he's in the fucking water, fucking bitten in half by a shark. That's what this is like. What a fucking idiot. And yeah, that just sets up the last chapter where they work out a deal. Oh yeah, so Marco and Cassie go onto the Helmicron ship, which is still there. And it's just the males on board now. Fair enough. And they're so easy to intimidate that they just walk on and say, unshrink them. And they're like, okay. And because Tobias was a fucking idiot, and is now being held hostage by Visser 3, they have to unshrink him. If Tobias had just fucking stayed back and not been a divvy, Visser 3 would now be defeated, for all intents and purposes. Simple as. But no, Tobias, you just had to be a cock. So the male Helmicrons activate the shrink ray, or the unshrink ray, and Cassie and Marco, where is it? Finally, we set the thing on automatic, and Marco and I ran outside to stand in the beam. Right. You just set it to automatic and went outside and stood in the beam. It's like a fucking toddler's written. And then they convinced the males to rise up against the females, which makes them argue, and then they fly away. And that's the end of the book. Yes, that's the end of the book. Okay. What can you say? I have to say things, right. So we've gone through 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 Hawkby J Chronicles. 6 pretty hard-hitting books, right? In the context of that, I really appreciate that we've gone to the almost Saturday morning cartoon style of book here. I actually really appreciate that. No joke. This was a fun read just because it was just taking a step back from all the intense stuff and just having a bit of fun for one book. And it was fun. It was a very fun read. It wasn't the best... It was well written, but there are times where it was quite hard to follow. But that's probably partly down to the fact that the narrator is operating from a perspective where she can't really see shit. So that's understandable, really. The only problem... Well, the biggest problem with having this sort of Saturday morning thing is that it's very fast and loose with the rules of Animorphs. The things like the Helmicrons just so happen to talk thought speak. The fact that Tobias just so happens to find Marco and Cassie on Chapman's head. The fact that Tobias just happens to go from his nice safe position to flapping about right in front of the Visser while he's an anti-morph when he's the size of an ant. It's very fast and loose with the rules of both the series and the rules of logic. But you know what? I still had fun, and I appreciate this book for what it was trying to do. For what it was trying to do, just having a little bit of fun, it's a good one from me. It's got a very Megamorphs feel to it, this book, where you know it's not relevant. It is filler, and it's just, you know, being very flexible with the rules of the universe they're in. Yeah, it's very much a Megamorphs book, just made into a smaller version and chucked in as number 24 in the main series. That's basically what this book is. And it does its job. I was entertained and I had fun and it was light-hearted, which is not often the case for Animorphs. So yeah, good. Awesome. What was the underlying message of this book? There wasn't really one. You could say that one sort of slight message was, don't take things for granted. Because we do take our size for granted. You know, we're quite a reasonably sized species, don't you agree? And Cassie and Marco and Tobias find out how shit things are when you're microbial, basically. So yeah, don't take your size for granted. You know, appreciate your size every day. It's not really much of a message, is it? But I suppose it's a message nonetheless. Are the Helmicrons a metaphor for something? I mean, the authors are always saying, interpret things as you will. It's not up to us to say how you interpret things. And I know I went off on the silly little thing about the woke movement. You know, I don't truly believe that. I'm just having a bit of a joke with you. What I do think is that the way I interpret this, it's almost like the authors are... Take a hypothetical nation with a two-party state. Or 2 tribes of people, whatever. Very similar. They do things very similar. Like the Helmicrons, you know, it's peas in a pod, you know, but they fucking hate each other. And they'll find these petty little issues to fucking bat heads over. And there was a funny little bit where one of the Helmicron ships was destroyed, and suddenly the other side are like, "Oh, those brave warriors, we really appreciated them." And it did sort of remind me of, like over here, we got Labour and Conservatives, which are the two big parties, and they will argue over petty shit. They really will. Sometimes they'll argue over genuine things, but a lot of the time it is petty little shits. And then, I don't know, they'll find something that they agree upon, or one, say, some MP dies somewhere, and the other side will be like, they were great and wonderful, and we appreciate the work that they did. Even though throughout their fucking political lives it was like, you're a fucking scumbag and you should die. Yeah, it just reminds me of that sort of thing. Maybe that's the message they're getting across. I don't know. I don't read the minds of Michael and Catherine. I wish I could, because that would mean I'd be a mind reader and I could, I don't know, I'd probably be rich. But frankly, I'm not. So that's a dream yet to come true. I'm sure some of you out there interpret the Helmicrons differently. If you do, please tell me about it. And tell me what you thought of this book. Because what am I going to give it? First, let's cover Jake leaderships, of which there was very little, to be honest. There was the bit at the start that I loved, and he came up with the plan. It was well structured. You know, he planned pretty well. Cassie came up with the big ideas, though, and for most of this book, they just followed Cassie's lead. So Jake wasn't involved that much, but I'm going to give him a good 7. You know, didn't really do anything, but when he did do stuff, he did it right. So, yeah, high 7, bordering on 8. Right, I just need to cover Cassie's character development. There is none. There really is no character development here. It really isn't. It's the most fillery book we've had so far. I'm sure there will be other filler books, but this one so far is definitively, up to this point in the series, the most fillery filler book so far. And Cassie has no development worth noting, really. What do I give the book score-wise? It's between 7 and 8. You know, there's a lot of logical inconsistency and a lot of convenience going on, but it's fun and it does its job. Do I give it a 7 or an 8? I think because of that ending, because of that bullshit, I'm going to mark it down to a 7. It's a good 7. It's a very good 7. And I am quite surprised, actually, because a lot of people criticise the Helmicrons and stuff. Are they annoying? If it weren't for... I'm reading these books in order, so I've gone through the 6 intense books. Coming to the Helmicrons, it's a breath of... I can't fucking speak. It's a breath of fresh air, really. To come across an alien race that's just a bit ridiculous and over the top. So in that context, I didn't find them that annoying. In fact, at times I found them quite funny, especially when they were talking about their society, because it was reminiscent of certain groups of people in modern times. I think we'll see Helmicrons again. Whether I believe the Helmicrons are annoying or not may depend on future books. So at the moment, I'm sort of, yeah, I appreciate them for the role they filled here in just giving us a bit of light entertainment. Same goes for this book. Light entertainment, yeah, there are problems, but in the context, I don't mind it that much. So, yeah, 7 out of 10. Pretty good. Pretty good. Not great, but good. The next book shall be numero 25, The Extreme. And that has got a polar bear on the front, which makes me think that we're going into a relatively cold environment. And yeah, that's next week, so tune into that. If you want to read something else in the meantime, there's always my fanfiction series. And yeah, I'm up to book 64. I've also done some side books. Main Course, Seer, Twig, stuff like that. One about the end of the Hawkbajir resistance on the Hawkbajir homeworld as well. I did like a mini fic on that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. It's been quite a fun one. So yeah, tune in next week. Same time. I try to get the videos up at 6 PM GMT on Saturdays. Remember to join the Animorphs Discord, where we talk all things Animorphs. We've got a quiz coming up on the 3rd of April, based on the first 5 books of the series. Come along and join the fun. Thank you very much for watching. This has been the Animorphs YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe, like, comment and share. Ta-ra!